BC Hydro has been installing smart meters in the Campbell River area as of late. Hydro says they're a very good idea. Obviously, there's a number of people out there who think maybe that's not the case, so we figured we'd better ask some questions. Welcome to FaceTime. I'm Dan MacLennan. My guest on the show today is Ted Olynyk, who's with BC Hydro, Vancouver Island Community Relations Manager.
That's correct.
Welcome to FaceTime.
Thank you.
Let's start basic. What is a smart meter, and why does BC Hydro want us all to have one?
Smart meters is a way for us to modernize the system. It's really just like the old meters, except it's a better way for us to manage consumption, help with customers with regards to their consumption, help us update the system so we can better manage what we have in the system. It's really just like the old meter, it's just modern. I mean, nothing's been upgraded with the meters in 50 years. They're the same old meter that we used before, except with this, it's like everything else. It's going digital, and the opportunities it provides us are fantastic. The reason we're doing this, as I say, the system hasn't been updated in 50 years. We're doing great work at John Hart up here, big work up here, modernizing John Hart to improve it. We haven't upgraded the system like this. It's still the same old meters that we've been using for the last 50 years. So with the new meters, it'll help us better understand what's going on in the system. Right now, despite being the power company that's responsible for lights, ironically, we're a bit in the dark when it comes to knowing exactly what's in the system at what given time. With the smart meters, it'll give us a better idea of what's going on, what's happening in the system, so we can do some voltage optimization. Doing that in itself will save BC Hydro money.
So it will allow you to better monitor demand, where those peaks and valleys are.
Exactly. I remember watching a TV show, I don't know if it was MASH or something to do with the Stanley Cup playoffs or a Super Bowl, but it was it was up at the watershed, the Capilano watershed, and they had this TV program showing this guy watching that show and having to know when a commercial was on. And he had to get up to make sure that as soon as a commercial break hit, he turned on the switch to make sure there's enough water in the system in the lower mainland. Because that was their only way of monitoring the system, to make sure they could have enough water in the system when everybody got up for a bathroom break. Right now, we don't have that ability. We don't have this big board that tells us how much we need exactly in the system right now. This will really help us.
Now, this is a major capital outlay as well. We're talking over $1 billion?
Yes, it's about $930 million for the smart meter program, and that'll pay for itself in 8 years because of the cost savings.
Now, the smart meter, a lot of the opposition I hear to it is based on the fact that the smart meter is actually a wireless device, is it?
It's a wireless device.
Somewhat ironic, given that this is BC Hydro and we bring wires to the house. It's a wireless device. It communicates. Take me just basically through this concept of how it's going to get that information to Hydro.
It's just like a Wi-Fi device. Wi-Fi is 1/100th the strength of a cell phone. This is just like a Wi-Fi device that people would have in their home. You'd see in City Hall, community centers, any neighborhood, a lot of businesses would have that. So it's just like a Wi-Fi device. And what it does, it'll communicate what your consumption is. It's not going to communicate any personal information. It's not going to communicate your banking information. Anything that you've provided to BC Hydro when you set up your account, that's already in our system. It's not part of what's being communicated by the meter. What we'll see is just something like this. This is all BC Hydro will see. It's just what your consumption is on an hour-by-hour basis.
And that's hours of the week.
That's hours. This is typical Hydro employee, apparently, that they took it from. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and that's a challenge we face. There's a lot of misinformation. People believe we're going to know, by this graph, somehow we're supposed to know who you have over, what you're having for dinner, what you have in your fridge, what you're doing if you have guests over, and other more personal information that they think we're going to be able to glean from that. But that's all we'll see. Customers will be able to see if they want real-time consumption data in their own home. But the reason for the wireless, it provides ease of opportunity for us to find out when there's an outage. It's called first gasp, last breath situation. So if the power goes out, right now the only way we know is if somebody calls in to let us know. And I was recently doing a presentation and someone told me the real challenges of that is they had their generator on for 3 days and they said, well, you know, this outage is taking a lot longer than we thought, and they were out more in the rural area. And they said, well, I got a buddy at BC Hydro, I'm going to call and find out. Well, they called Hydro and they said, we didn't know you had an outage. The reason we didn't know is because nobody called in. The only way we know of an outage right now is if somebody calls in to tell us there's an outage. And with this, we'll know of an outage if it happens at night before you'll know it at night when you get up, or in the morning when you get up. So it allows us to better deal with outages. And we'll know how widespread they are. Are they just to Campbell River? Are they over to Quadra? Are they part of Cortez as well? How widespread is the outage? So it'll really help us. In Arizona, that saved them about 175,000 gallons of gasoline in their first year when they started the smart meter program, because they didn't have to go out and deal with erroneous calls. That's why we ask people, do you have your breaker on? Check your breaker to make sure your breaker's not off, because you know how many times our crews have gone out there and they've said, yes, I know it's a power outage, while their breaker just went off in their house. So it'll help us have an idea of where there's an outage, because right now we don't know, but with a smart meter it'll show up on our board. We have outages along Main Street, all this block of Main Street, so we know how widespread it is.
Lots of opinion, of course, on the smart meters, so we might as well get to our intrepid FaceTime team has gone back out into the neighborhoods to find out what people think about smart meters in these early stages. Let's have a look at that.
I don't know enough about them.
We get a bit of volume,
I think that's one of my main concerns. Another concern is that we really didn't get to speak up about having it put on our house. The guy came to the house, he knocked, said, I'm putting a smart meter on, and that was pretty much it.
We actually turned ours down. There was a man in the driveway when we had pulled in. We hadn't had time to put our sign up. We just decided that if it's not broke, we shouldn't fix it. So we turned ours down.
I've heard a few people so far that have had them put in, and it sounds like, you know, their bill doubled almost instantly. So I'm a little worried about it. I mean, there's people that got concerns about the privacy and stuff, issues like that. But I mean, you know, knowing a little bit about that kind of stuff, I don't think that's too much of an issue. But if we're gonna incur higher rates than that because of them, yeah, I could live without them, definitely.
Well, smart meters to me are, they're a way of preventing people from stealing hydro, and that's exactly what this is all about. I don't think there's enough radiation in them to amount to a hill of beans. People standing out on the street have more radiation from microwave towers and satellites transmissions. You know, I don't see it as being a big issue. So, you know, I'm quite welcome. Bring it on. I really could care less.
I don't like anything that's forced on people, and they're forcing it on people, and I can only see one reason for doing that, and that's to squeeze more money out of us. So this government sanctioned, and a lot of that money goes to government. What I would really like to know, how much of my hydro bill is going to government coffers, because by rights I should be getting a tax receipt for that. We should be taking it off income tax. That's double and triple taxation.
Don't know a lot about them. We have got the notice that they are changing them, so I guess we're going to wait and find out. I've heard, you know, some of the pros and the cons about it, and you know, one of the cons is your power bill goes up. So again, you know, let's wait and see. And I don't know the reason why your power bill would go up. It should be exactly the same. So I think the jury's still out on that. And you know, I've within my own household, my power bill's the same for the last 20 years. So if it changes all of a sudden, you know, then I probably won't be so for the smart meter. So yeah.
Varied opinions on the smart meters. Obviously, Ted, you've heard an awful lot of this. Anything new there?
No, that's a lot of the questions we get from people. And the challenge for us, of course, is getting all the information out. There's a lot of information regarding smart meters. Unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of misinformation as well. You know, people are, with the internet, the blogosphere, you can find a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of fear has been put out there to people. And with regards to EMF, as the gentleman mentioned, I mean, you know, if you're really concerned about radiation, you know, make sure you wear your sunscreen. You're going to get a lot more of it from the sun every day when you're out there than this. This is well below any standard set in the world. There's misinformation out there, and it's comparing it to cell phones or anything like that. This is just like a Wi-Fi device. So if you go to the library or you go to a coffee shop that's got Wi-Fi, this is just like going in there. If you go in there for 4 minutes waiting for your coffee, it's equal to 1 year's of standing next to your smart meter. No breaks, no potty breaks in between. 1 year next to your smart meter. is equivalent to 4 minutes in a coffee shop.
Now, is that uniform throughout the neighborhood where you've got your smart meters, or are there like the equivalent of the transformers we now have on the system where the signal is stronger?
No, no matter where you go, how the system works, I mean, it's just like, as I say, just like Wi-Fi. In actual fact, Wi-Fi is stronger. It's 20 micrograms per squared centimeter with regards to electromagnetic frequency. Whereas this is 2.5, it's actually less than that. And it's the best precautionary principle guideline in the world is within Switzerland, and they set it at 4. So this is less than half of the toughest standards in the world. And we get that question, if you have a lot of smart meters in one area, like you have a meter bank, you live in an apartment building or a trailer complex, and you're right next to the bank of meters, well, will you have 10, if there's 10 meters there, will you be exposed at 10 times? No. We did a field test in Victoria, and people could see, it was done, that it was at 10 meters in an apartment building, and it maxed out at 2. The way the meters communicate, they're not all communicating at once, and it was done by an independent organization to review the work to make sure, and it was concluded that the max you'll see is 2 meters communicating, and it's still below the safest standards in the world.
So the meters are they're not constantly up and running in terms of communication. They make periodic reports, is that it?
In total, they communicate less than a minute a day. It's actually, I think, about 3 seconds or less than 30 seconds, but we want to be, we say a minute because we don't want someone coming back to us and saying, it's at 25 or 26 seconds and you said this. It's a very small amount.
So as you know, there's concerns raised about the radio frequency radiation, the microwave, as some have called it. The example is brought up that there are increasing numbers of people who are becoming electro-hypersensitive to these devices. So the smart meters in their eyes are making things worse. Is that a valid concern? I will
not dismiss any concerns or sensitivities or feelings that people have with regards to any electronic device, but they've done double-blind studies. World Health Organization, our own BC Centre for Disease Control have all said that disease is not a product of electromagnetic sensitivity. Maybe there's other issues, other sensitivities going on, but certainly through double-blind studies, countless time after time, they have not found any conclusive evidence that says there is any correlation to standing next to a Wi-Fi device. We have to think of how prevalent Wi-Fi is around us. I mean, how long cell phones have been around us. Just AM and FM signals have been around. AM's been around for almost 100 years now.
Now, we heard one of the gentlemen say, I don't like anything forced on me. Is that maybe the root of a whole lot of opposition to the smart meters? People don't like being told you need a new meter.
Well, I think there's a lot of misinformation, and this feeds on it. This is just an infrastructure upgrade for us. I mean, if the World Health Organization came and said, we want you to be concerned about something. If the BC Centre for Disease Control and the World Health Organization and the Privacy Commissioner all came knocking on your door and said, this is something you should be concerned about, rightly so, you would be concerned about it. But what they're saying, World Health, BC Centre for Disease Control, and the Privacy Commissioner are saying, there's nothing here. There's nothing to be alarmed about. There's no one under your bed. We're not going to know what's going on in your home. There's no camera attached to the smart meter. Big Brother's not going to be spying on you. It's, as I say, the coffee shop analogy. There's analogy of a 30-minute cell phone conversation on a cell phone is equal to 20 years exposure to a smart meter. I mean, how many of us have cordless phones in our home, never mind cell phones, and we're willing to put it up to our head and speak for minutes every day, hours at a time sometimes, or being in a room with Wi-Fi. This is on less than a minute a day, and it's more than, most places it's more than 3 meters from you when it's outside your house.
We have heard, I think maybe we've all heard stories about, I got the smart meter and suddenly my hydro rates went through the roof. Have there been problems with the meters themselves, or what's the explanation for this?
Unfortunately for us, because we have to deal in the realm of privacy, as the Privacy Commissioner said, there's no concerns for privacy with the smart meters. But as a Crown corporation, we have to protect the information with regards to customers' consumption private. We have to, just like you would expect it with the Ministry of Finance or Children and Families, anything personal like that. So the media would come to us with questions about smart meter and the bills. Well, when the stories run, we're still working with the customer. We take every complaint that a customer has about their bill very seriously, and we will go through with them all the time about every aspects of it. And we're finding days later after the story's run, on one extreme, someone said, I didn't really think it would make that much of a difference, but well, I do have a new hot tub, but it's an energy efficient one. It should make that much of a difference. People realizing, well, during this winter, I wanted to save energy, so I turned my space heaters down upstairs. Well, the heat still needs to go, heat will rise until it heats the whole house. So you're still having your bill because of that. And people will be complaining about their bill, and we're finding their bill their consumption is still relatively the same. Despite what it was back east, was actually a colder winter this year than it was last year for us. About 8%, according to Environment Canada, more heating days. So we still had to use a bit more electricity. And rates went up last April. Rates have gone up. So people need to make sure they're looking at the consumption, not their rates.
We hear people saying, oh, they didn't ask me. The guy just showed up and installed it. Should Hydro be going house to house and saying, do you want a smart meter?
Well, we have been putting ads in. We put ads in papers. We send letters to customers before we do the installation. And if customers want to get more information and don't want a meter installed at that point when they arrive, they can just simply have a note on their meter saying, just delay installation at this point. I don't want a meter at this point. I want to get more information. And we find when we go back and we talk to people and address their concerns, we're finding a number of people are saying, okay, I'm comfortable with it. Because there's so much misinformation, and this is the first time they're able to really focus on what's involved with the smart meter. But for us, it's an infrastructure upgrade. I mean, there's wireless water meters in various municipalities across the province. Gas meters eventually will be going to a wireless. This is less than the Wi-Fi you'd find if you went to the public library or the recreation center or walking downtown. A lot of businesses will have Wi-Fi. I know coffee shops downtown, that's their selling point of Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
Hotels.
So the Wi-Fi is not a concern. The signal strength is very low, is what you're saying. Have you had? Are there any technical problems you're aware of with these smart meters that might have explained some higher bills, or there's talk of damage to appliances, power surges, and whatnot?
We did a removal of 1,000 just to do an audit to find out how they were. And keep in mind, they're electrical device. And of course, we know electrical devices are foolproof.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if we all had some electrical device at home and we wish they would all of them be perfect, we'd be pretty happy folks. But like any electrical device, and just like our old meters, there are going to be faulty ones. We never said they're 100% perfect and they'll be without fault. I think we took out 1,000. I think it's less than 10. I heard 6 was the number that we have problems with. So that's like less than 1% of all the smart meters. Our meters go through a rigorous process of testing. One concern that people have is they're not CSA approved. Well, they don't have to be because they're not a consumer product. The old meters weren't CSA approved. They're approved by Measurement Canada. All meters in Canada are looked after by Measurement Canada. They look after gas company meters, electrical meters for Hydro-Quebec and for BC Hydro. They make sure that they follow the guidelines and reviewed, of course, in the States. And they follow rigorous testing. We've had, I think, 62 customers say they want their meter tested. They thought the meter was not working properly. And if the meter is found not to be working properly, BC Hydro will pay for the test by Measurement Canada. Otherwise, that's what the consumer would pay. And they didn't find any problems with any of the meters. So Measurement Canada is a lot bigger than BC Hydro when it comes to testing and making sure and doing a rigorous assessment of the meters.
So it's kind of like the modern day weights and measures folks. They make sure the thing is calibrated properly.
Exactly.
You can actually have a non-CSA object attached to my house because it's not a consumer.
That's right.
Although its smart meter is partially sold on its ability to tell us all, including myself, what my energy consumption is like. Is that not somewhat?
But it's not a consumer device. It's still, well, no, but it's not a consumer device. It's still regulated. It's still highly and strictly enforced with regards to measurements and accuracy of what they're doing. But it's not a consumer product like a stereo or anything like that.
So it doesn't go through that CSA or UL process?
Yeah. But well, it goes through Measurement Canada process, and it goes through what's called the ANSI process in the United States through their measurements as well. So it's still part of that.
And the old ones?
They weren't CSA approved either.
Okay. How long have those old ones, the classic, I mean, we're used to seeing them all, how long have they actually been the standard?
For 50 years. And that's why it's important, and you'll see, I think, 2 billion meters changed out worldwide in the next 10 years, I believe, to the new smart meters. It's a way to upgrade the system. It'll help consumers. We don't, if consumers do nothing, we believe that it'll save BC Hydro about $70 million over the next 2 years. How it helps consumers is if they want, and you touched on this, the in-home device, if they want, they can have an in-home device, maybe 2 or 3 times the size of a cell phone. It's a Bluetooth device, and it's something, if they want, it not required, but if they want, they can have this in-home device in their home, and it'll provide them about a 7-second delay, but pretty much real time what their consumption is in their house. So it really puts the power, no pun intended, but the power back in a consumer's hands to see what they're using. I have a friend who had a heat pump and it malfunctioned 1 year on him. And of course, because I work for Hydro, he gave me heck that I should know exactly what his bill would be, and I should have called him up. And I said, well, we can't, we have 1.8 million customers. We're not going to come and monitor everybody's bill so closely, and because you've got such a high bill. But with this, what you'll be able to do is find out if there's something malfunctioning, or why is my consumption going up so high? There was a senior who was on the YouTube, I saw the news story where she's down in Arizona during a heat spell a couple of years ago, and they have smart meters down there. And she said she was able to adjust the air conditioning in her unit. And then the in-home device was able to extrapolate what her bill would be and what the consumption would be based on that current pattern. So it allowed her to save money. When you're on a fixed income, if you have more ability to save money, that's going to be a great thing. So we think customers can save up to 15% on their bills. We have to be realistic in today's world. Nothing's going to come down in price. Unfortunately, because of metals or materials we need, rates, and having to make repairs to our infrastructure throughout the province, rates will go up. There's no doubt about at what level, who knows, but rates at some time throughout will go up. What we hope to do, and what smart meters can do, will help consumers, because it doesn't mean their bills have to go up correspondingly, because they can look at their bill and go, well, I can adjust it here, and they can go around and see. I got 2 young boys, so I can take this and tell them it's an electronic game somehow and convince them of that, and maybe they'll pay attention to it. But we can go through the house and look at it and say, look, you turn this off, this is the savings. Turn this off. I can tie it to their allowance. I think I can make some money there, but there's opportunity that exists there.
It's dangerous territory, Ted.
Yes.
You say if I don't want one, I can put a note on my meter. Mm-hmm. It's that simple.
We'll delay installation. For the program to work, we need 1.8 million meters, 1.9 million smart meters installed throughout the province.
How many you got now?
We just hit 1.5 a couple days ago.
So you're getting close.
Yeah, hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have them all done.
I leave a note, you'll delay, which kind of makes it sound like you're coming back anyway. But for the time being, we'll delay so that maybe we can have a chat, and hopefully you can address my concerns. If I put that note up there, how long might that delay before you come back and install? Is there any potential loss to me in terms of, okay, you'll pass me by then and I won't get a smart meter?
No, we'll come back. We want to make sure to talk to you, because we found a lot of people, pressure from friends, relatives, neighbors saying, okay, I don't want one installed, or they're living in the complex and everyone told them not to have one installed. And we'll go back, because our relationship is with each customer. If, as an example, in an apartment block, if everybody wanted one, except one person didn't want one and they put that on their meter, well, we would respect that one person didn't want it. Conversely, if everyone said they didn't want it and one person said they did, we'd only change it to one, because our relationship is with each individual customer. But we'll go back and we'll work with them. We're finding people, there's a lot of misinformation out there. That's our challenge. As the first person on the clip said, there's not enough information. And that's right. It's probably our fault not getting as much information out there to address their concerns. And we've been out there, but now that there's smart meters being installed in the valley, people are paying more attention to it, and we have to recognize that, and through vehicles like this, get information out. And
we've got that BC Hydro website with information on it. You mentioned there's lots of stuff out there on the web. The Coalition to Stop Smart Meters among them. They say 54 BC communities have smart meter moratoriums and or have asked to opt out of the program. Are you getting whole communities saying, keep them out?
We respect what the role is of municipality, but as a Crown corporation, we have to do our work throughout the whole province. And we appreciate they've made a statement by saying that. But as I mentioned before, our relationship is with each individual customer. So we're still going ahead and installing meters in communities.
So you're not avoiding some communities because of requested moratoriums. You are getting requests, though, are you not?
Well, it was asked for more information. They wanted more information, wanted information from the health officer, and it and some of them were various in their opinions on smart meters. And we've had Perry Kendall. They wanted more information from our provincial health officer, and Dr. Perry Kendall said there's not a concern for smart meters here, folks. Nothing to be concerned about.
So I think what I'm hearing from you is we're coming back. Whether you put the note up there or not, we're coming back. The smart meter is inevitable for your house. We're going to change it over sooner or later.
Well, we hope to, for the system to work. That's what we want to do. But we're going to talk to people. We think there's enough runway room to still be able to talk to people and go through what their concerns are. I mean, again, there's no health concerns. We want to let them know that there are no health concerns with regards to what the World Health Organization said, what Dr. Perry Kendall has said, independent studies which have verified all our information. I mean, put it in perspective. It's less than what you'd find at any facility. I'm sure in this building there's Wi-Fi. Ours operates less than a minute a day. In anyone's home, it operates 24/7. This is less than a minute a day. The privacy issue is not a concern because we're not going to look what's going on inside your home. That information is still being protected. The only thing that's being transmitted is what you're consuming. So there's actually one less person on your property if you're concerned about privacy, but the information that's being transmitted is just what you're consuming. And that is being encrypted just like you would use for online banking, 128-bit logarithmic encryption. So there's no real issue there either.
You've been installing in the Comox Valley. You're now installing Campbell River area. Are you tracking how many people are saying, hey, whoa, I don't want this?
I haven't seen the latest number. I know for a while there it was around 1% had said no. I'm not sure if the number's increased or decreased. I'm sure as we go through, the number will have probably increased. But we're doing quite well considering how many meters we have to install across the province.
Another concern has been raised, you're using contractors as opposed to BC Hydro employees to go out and do these installations.
Yes, we've, as part of the program, CoreX, they've installed over 10 million meters across North America already. So we've hired them, they're a BC company actually, we've hired them to do the installation in the province of BC.
Ted, thanks for joining us. I'm afraid we have run out of time. My guest has been Ted Olynyk, BC Hydro's Community Relations Manager for Vancouver Island. We've been talking about smart meters. We will be talking about smart meters some more. I have little doubts about that. A little bit of business to take care of. However, we'd like to hear what you think of the show, as I say every episode. And we'd like to hear what you'd like to see on the show as well. And here's how. You can like us and comment on Facebook. That's www.facebook.com/FaceTime4U for the number 4. Email us at face-time@shaw.ca. And you can always leave comments on YouTube as well, where the programs go up, as well as here on Shaw TV. And so ends episode number 14. I'm Dan MacLennan. Thanks for sharing some FaceTime.